Welcome, football fans, to Bleacher Report's NFL Daily. I'm Mitch, and I'm back with my favorite thing to do, and that is rank players in the NFL. In this live, I'm ranking the top 10 players playing in Super Bowl 59. So I know there's going to be controversy. Not everyone's going to agree with my list. I'm sure you're going to be upset about a player being ranked 5 over another player that was ranked 7. So make sure you let me know in the comments what you agree with, what you disagree with, how many Eagles should be on the list, which Eagles should be on the list, how many Chiefs should be on the list, and which Chiefs should be on the list. There are a lot of great players on this list, so we couldn't get to all of them. Unfortunately, we couldn't find all of them and put them all on this list. So we're going to start it off with some honorable mentions. All right, so we're going to give you 5 honorable mentions. The first of which, that was the hardest to leave off the list, was my former Patriot, close to my heart, the great Joe Thuney. Joe Thuney, he is, in fact, one of the most versatile and best offensive linemen in football. He actually was first in ESPN's pass block win rate stat. Now, the problem with Joe Thuney and the reason he's not on this list is because he's playing out of position in the Super Bowl. Okay, so if you want a justification there for why Joe Thuney does not belong, because honestly, he might be the best pure guard in the NFL. He's at least in the conversation, especially when it comes to pass blocking. But he's playing most likely at tackle in Super Bowl 59, so he is not on the list. He is my number 11. Other players that didn't quite make the list: Landon Dickerson, a Pro Bowl level guard for the Eagles, highly impactful in the running game, also has that versatility, as we saw in the NFC Championship, to not only play through injury, but play another position, play center, play guard at a high level. Devontae Smith is a big game player, one of the best number 2 receivers in football for sure. Big play player at wide receiver. This year, though, his stats obviously did not reflect an elite ranking because they don't throw the ball enough to really provide Devontae Smith with a ton of stats to back it up. Trey Smith is a big-time free agent this offseason. He's going to be paid a lot of money on the open market. He's going to be the most coveted guard in free agency, so look out for him in this Super Bowl game. In my opinion, one of the best run-blocking guards in football. And the 5th and final honorable mention is none other than Zach Bond, who some people may say was a top 3 linebacker in the league this year. Like, so good. He absolutely transformed Philadelphia's defense, especially in the middle of the field. His coverage, his ability to rush as well and be an extra blitzer because of his versatility to play on the edge in his past throughout his linebacker career. And just that linebacker position is always so big in Fangio's scheme. He fit it to an absolute T. The only reason he's not on the list is because he's just had less time of being in the spotlight as a great player. And it was hard to justify him over the 10 players that are already on the list and are making, 3rd, 4th, 5th year in a row of being phenomenal players, right? Bond has only been an all-pro caliber type of player for 1 season, so that's kind of the reason he's not on the list. But those are my honorable mentions. Let me know what you guys think in the chat. Bond is the best linebacker in the league. Fred Warner, I think, would argue that he is. But KJ says, talking about honorable mentions, yes, leaving off Bond is literally insane, says Brady. Well, you guys will look at the list and understand why he's not on the list, because there are 10 players that are absolutely phenomenal in this Super Bowl, okay? So let's get to it. Let's start it off with number 10. And this player was next to impossible to leave off of the list. That's Travis Kelce. Travis Kelce's the number 10 player in the Super Bowl. Why is he only number 10? Well, he had career lows in terms of yards, 823 yards. In terms of His yards per reception, 8.5. I mean, that's really low for any receiver. Tight end receiver, 8.5 yards per reception is not very good at all. And then a career low in touchdowns. So this was, in fact, statistically speaking, Travis Kelce's least respectable campaign. But when it comes to the playoffs, he's dangerous every single third down, every single red zone snap. Every single time Patrick Mahomes drops back, the first player the defense has to defend is Travis Kelce. And for that fact, especially in a huge game, you have to respect Kelce and put him on the list, right? Was he even a top 5 tight end this year? That's debatable. He did have 97 catches, so nearly 100 catches on the season is pretty darn impressive even at his age. And he's a chain mover. He still shows that savviness to separate and create after the catch. And he's one of the biggest celebrities in the game as well. But in terms of Travis Kelce, I just think his clutch play, when you're talking about specifically 10 best players in this Super Bowl, the guy that I picked to possibly be the MVP cannot be left off the list, even if he had career lows in certain statistics. So Travis Kelce, he's rose up to the occasion these playoffs against the Texans. I think he will in the Super Bowl. That's why he's at number 10. At number 9, now we're starting to get to the caliber of player where all of these guys are rather like the best player at their position, or they're like number 2, number 3, like they're top 3. So guys, understanding why Zach Bond is not on the list is because these guys have been considered elite players at their position, like already, even last year, or they're like young phenom type of players. So let's get to number 9. Creed Humphrey. Ever since he stepped into the NFL, he's been considered arguably the best center in football. This year, no mistake. PFF graded him as the number 1 center during the regular season by about 5 points. So like he was like 5 points higher than any other center in football. Okay. He allowed the least amount of pressures among all offensive linemen, all tackles, guards, centers. Creed Humphrey has fixed that snap issue. He's become a more refined center in that regard. He is hugely impactful in their ability to run the ball. His ability to overpower D tackles, get to the second level, his ability to open up that space in the interior is a huge reason why the Chiefs are able to convert on 3rd and short, convert on these 3rd and 4th downs. Like his ability to not only keep Mahomes protected, but also to be probably their most important player in the run game. That is why he is at number 9. All right. So at number 8, we're going to go with Trent McDuffie. McDuffie is arguably a top 3 corner in football. Pro Football Focus saw him as the number 2 graded player at his position this year. And I love Trent McDuffie, and I love players like Trent McDuffie. McDuffie is one of the most versatile defensive backs in the NFL. He can play on the perimeter, as proven this year, and shadow the number 1 wide receiver on an opposing team. He might get the A.J. Brown assignment in this Super Bowl, right? Maybe occasionally Devontae Smith. But at the same time, Trent McDuffie is an excellent blitzer who can be sent from the slot and disrupt the quarterback. He can create a big play. And it's pretty crazy. I didn't know this until like right before the show started. He had 2 interceptions this year. The only 2 of his career, which is wild considering like every time you watch the Chiefs, this guy is making a big pressure in a big moment, a big tackle behind or at the line of scrimmage. You always see him flying around to the football, making a play on the football. He had 13 passes defense this year, and he was also a first-team All-Pro in 2023 and a second-team All-Pro in 2024. So he's shown that consistency of being an elite-level player, rather at the nickel spot or the perimeter corner spot, which is why he is number 8, arguably. Like I said, he's definitely the best corner in this game, but he's arguably a top 3 corner in the entire NFL. Okay. At number 7, and this guy was really difficult to not move up the list, and I was contemplating whether or not I should move him up the list because he's a Hall of Fame player. He is no debate, one of the best right tackles I've ever seen in my life, and that is Lane Johnson. He is so dominant, especially when it comes to, at this stage of his career, there's just few players that are as physically special as Lane Johnson. How powerful he is, how strong he is, how fast he is, his ability to move in space in the run game. He is an absolute wall in pass protection. Lane Johnson has been probably one of the most underrated players in football for like 10 years going on, it feels like. So he was the 5th graded tackle this season, 2nd at right tackle. All right. 5th in pass block win rate, 5th in run block win rate. And he was the only player on both lists, by the way. He also was the tackle on those lists with the least double team help. So the Eagles like to use their tackles because they're both so phenomenal on islands. They do not get help. They do not get chips. They do not get doubles. They do not get a running back. They don't get a tight end. All right. The left tackle and the right tackle in Philadelphia are so damn good that they just sit there one-on-one the entire game and just block the person opposite him. And that's what Lane Johnson has done for years. He also allowed the least amount of pressures at the tackle position this season. So Lane Johnson is still playing at an incredible level. He's probably the best or second best right tackle in football, depending on your thought on Penei Sewell. But he is right up there. I mean, he's absolutely outrageously good at everything he does. And he is such a foundational element of what the Eagles are so great at, which is that physical run game, right? So at number 7, Lane Johnson. At number 6, maybe a surprising entry in terms of how high he is on the list because he's a younger person on this list or a younger player on this list. But Jalen Carter cannot be denied in terms of how dominant he has been, especially throughout the playoffs. When you look at the playoffs, Jalen Carter has 20 pressures in the playoffs. Okay, guys? That is 9 more than any other player in the playoffs. 9 more than Chris Jones, who is second. Okay. So Jalen Carter is arguably already a top 2 defensive tackle in football. He is that good. He was 3rd in pressures for the entire regular season, 2nd in hurries. He also had 7 batted passes, which was 2nd in the NFL. And he was named a 2nd-team All-Pro. So a lot of seconds for Jalen Carter. But it wouldn't surprise me if as soon as next year, he was probably the best player at his position. I think he's that good. He's that explosive. He's a demon in terms of trying to block this guy in pass rushing situations. He's excellent against the run. He can beat you with quickness or power, and he is overwhelmingly powerful. And I just don't understand why other teams and organizations weren't willing to draft him a little bit higher, because he was arguably the most talented player in his draft class and was not treated as such. But at number 6, Jalen Carter, an absolute terrorizer of the football field on defense. Now, before we get to number 5, let's just head to the chat for a second. Ethan says, I thought he was about to put Bolton. Bolton's not anywhere near the list. I'm sorry. Carter is top 5 for sure. Well, you'll see who's in the top 5, and you guys can debate whether you think he's top 5. I don't mind you putting top 5. Like I said, I could argue that Lane Johnson should be in the top 5 as well. I thought about Carter and Lane Johnson in the top 5, but you guys will see who's in the top 5, and you'll believe me. Bink says something about McDuffie. Didn't quite catch it. There's a lot of comments coming fast. JC top 5, so I'm wondering who edged him out. This top 5 is about to be something. Can't see the bottom of it. Crazy. I don't know, but let's get to it. And you guys can debate. Let me know. I mean, these are some darn good top 5 players. At number 5, we've got the absolute monster known as A.J. Brown. A.J. Brown has been a top 5 wide receiver in the NFL ever since getting to Philadelphia. When you're a top 5 player at the most stacked position in the NFL, the deepest position in the NFL, in my opinion, there's no debate. He's top 5 player. He was the number 4 graded wide receiver this season. And this wasn't even a great year for him statistically, but he was 3rd in yards per route run, 3rd in yards per reception. He was also, putting up 8 touchdowns and nearly 1,200 yards. Okay. So A.J. Brown didn't play the full length of the schedule, also is in a very run-oriented offense, but he is absolutely dominant. You can't put him one-on-one. He's too physically special. He can beat you with his power at the line of scrimmage and his physicality. He can beat you with pure speed. He can beat you after the catch. He can beat you going up in contested scenarios and catching the football. He can pretty much do anything. Okay, so A.J. Brown is an absolute beast. He's reading books on the sideline because he just does not care about his opponent, bro. He's going to be calm, composed, and go out there and rip your heart out every single Sunday. He could do that, and he could be the MVP of this Super Bowl. There's no question. He is that good. He can take a slant and go to the house, or he can beat you on a fade. A.J. Brown is just that dude. Nothing else has to be said. At number 4, this might be like the surprising entry of the top 5, because I don't think people really understand how good this player is because of the position he plays. But Jordan Mailata of the Philadelphia Eagles is my number 4. He was graded as the best tackle in football this season by Pro Football Focus. He also was first in run block grade. Now, he was also behind only Lane Johnson in the second least in terms of double team rate. So like I said with Lane Johnson, they don't double with their tackles. They don't give them any help. These guys just go on islands and they pretty much beat people up. And I don't think without Jordan Mailata, with his ability to be just an absolute beast in the run game, opening up holes for Saquon, you often see, where do the Eagles like to run the ball? A lot of the time, left, right? Don't you notice that a lot of their big plays are to the left, especially in the playoffs? It feels like left. Because Mailata is the man plowing the defense down. He's beating his guy at the line of scrimmage. Then he's getting to the next level because he's like 7 feet tall and runs a 4.5. And he's just bullying people, man. He's just bullying people. He's just a train, right? And that just allows, these two tackles just allow them to be so explosive on the edges in their run game when Saquon is able to hit the hole and then bounce it outside and Mailata is able to clean house for him. It's just a perfect combination. So yeah, absolute beast. He is the best tackle in football, according to PFF. I would argue he's in the conversation with Tristan Wirfs, with Penei Sewell, and with his teammate Lane Johnson. I think those are the top 4 tackles. And just because of, I wanted to put him and represent him in the top 5 because of how influential that position and that offensive line is in the possibility of Philadelphia winning the Super Bowl. Without this dominant offensive line, without Mailata and without Lane Johnson, they wouldn't be here. They wouldn't be anywhere close to being here, right? They're all about their run game. And I think that is the biggest example of it, with Mailata being the best run blocker in football. Okay, at number 3. Now, the top 3, I think, is fairly obvious for a majority of people. It's just the order that you want to go in. At number 3, I have Chris Jones. Okay, Chris Jones, the best defensive tackle for my money in the NFL. And in my opinion, it's because of his big game plays and his big game capabilities, right? Every single time the Chiefs have played in a big game over the past few years, there's a reason they're going for a three-peat, because their best defensive player always shows up and always makes a play, whether it's tipping a pass, getting a key pressure, beating his man, stopping the run, disrupting some sort of play, forcing a double or a triple team. Chris Jones is just otherworldly in his consistency to play in these big event games. And this season, there is no question, first in pressures, first in pass rush win rate, second in quarterback hits. He is a 3-time All-Pro in a row, first team All-Pro in a row. And he was also fairly high in his ability to stop the run, although that would be considered the weakness of his game, only because sometimes he doesn't really try when it comes to stopping the run during the regular season, because he's usually saving up all his prowess for the playoffs. But Chris Jones, only 5 sacks this year, but the sacks don't reflect his production. Number 1 graded defensive tackle, number 1 in pressures, number 1 in big plays and big moments. That's why Chris Jones is the 3rd best player in the Super Bowl. Now, at number 2, this is rather where the chat's going to love me or going to hate me. I have Patrick Mahomes. Patrick Mahomes is at number 2 for the best players in the Super Bowl. Now, this is obviously because of the recency. Like, if we were considering careers, he would probably be first, obviously. But if we're talking about players entering this game, how they're playing right now in combination with who they are, I think he's number 2. Okay, I don't think that's a slight. As you know, you look at his stats this year, they were fairly pedestrian for a guy that's a future Hall of Famer and considered possibly a top 5, top 3 quarterback of all time, right? Some people would even say he's second. So for Patrick Mahomes, 16th in passer rating, 7th in yards, 9th in passing touchdowns, 4th in first downs. Like, some of his stats are just not that impressive. Now, one that is, and that I think is the reason why they are where they are, Patrick Mahomes, first in game-winning drives, first in fourth quarter comebacks, right? First in wins. That's what Patrick Mahomes does. He manages the game better than any quarterback in football in terms of knowing when to scramble, knowing when to throw the ball at the feet of his running back to throw an incompletion, knowing when to throw the big play, knowing when to check it down, knowing when to scramble and create that extra moment of time to find Kelsey for 7 yards when you need 6, right? Every single time you need to make a play, Patrick Mahomes seemingly makes it. Now, obviously, he is aided by the great coaching around him, the great situation. That has never been, something that has been, it's been obvious, but he always makes the most of everything that Reed gives him, that the weapons are there to give him. And I would say this year has been pretty damn impressive in terms of his ability to take any receiver he's playing with, whether it be Juju or at times Mecole Hardman or Marquise Brown or Rashee Rice or no Rashee Rice or DeAndre Hopkins or Travis Kelce, or sometimes Kelce isn't the same guy, or Noah Gray or Justin Watson. It feels like it doesn't really matter who's on his team, similarly to a Tom Brady. He's able to go out there and still win the damn game. So you give him a ton of credit for number 2. But this year, there's no question that the best player in this game this season is Saquon Barkley. I mean, this might be the best running back season we've ever seen. It might be. When you look at the regular season and the postseason combined, Saquon Barkley might break the all-time rushing record, right? And it just doesn't get any better than what we've seen from Saquon Barkley as a running back, okay? He led the NFL in attempts, which I think is important for running backs because it speaks to the importance to his team. He led the NFL in attempts. That means that the Eagles were willing to give the ball to Saquon Barkley darn near as much as Jalen Hurts, who's the quarterback. That doesn't happen, okay? Then yards. He had 2,005 yards. 2,005 on the ground, 125 rushing yards per game, guys. He was a first-team All-Pro, obviously. You could consider him the MVP. If the year was 2006, he'd probably win the MVP. But now that we're in 2020, 25, this is a quarterback league, and we're not going to give an MVP to a running back nowadays. But if this season was put in a different era, it would be considered MVP without debate, not even a question. 5.8 yards per attempt, 33 catches, 278 yards, and 2 touchdowns. And his receiving stats don't do him justice because he's a great receiver. He's a great receiver, and he doesn't get the credit really because they don't throw him the ball a lot. Like, they don't really scheme him a lot of touches on, through the air. He's a great route runner. How many times did you see him win on a wheel route? Like, the running backs don't do that. That one catch I think he had in like the first game of the year on like a back shoulder wheel route. Like, running backs don't catch that, bro. Saquon Barkley is outrageously good. He can hit a home run at any moment in a game. He has transformed what the NFL thinks of the running back this year. And his ability to not only consistently run the ball in between the tackles, but consistently be a threat to hit a home run. I don't really remember a running back like this since maybe like 2012 Adrian Peterson. There just hasn't been, even McCaffrey, all the running backs we've seen over the last 10 years. Like, I don't think there's been a season quite like this since maybe AP. So, Saquon is that damn good. He's playing at the peak of his powers. And the simple case is, like, Patrick Mahomes might be the better player all time, but he's not playing at a better level right now than Saquon is. I don't think anybody in the NFL is. Not Lamar, not Allen, not anyone, okay? It's Saquon Barkley is probably the best player in football right now. So we'll see if he can be that for the Eagles at Super Bowl 59, in Super Bowl 59, and lead them to the Super Bowl MVP and the Super Bowl. But that's my top 10, guys. So just to recap it, at number 10, Travis Kelce. At number 9, Creed Humphrey. At number 8, we have Trent McDuffie. At number 7, Lane Johnson. 6, Jalen Carter. 5, A.J. Brown. 4, Jordan Mailata. At number 3, Chris Jones. At number 2, Patrick Mahomes. And at number 1, Saquon Barkley. Now, my honorable mentions were Joe Tooney, Landon Dickerson, Devontae Smith, Trey Smith, and Zach Bond to give you a top 15. Not really in any specific order other than Joe Tooney being 11th. But AG says I'm a joke. Thanks, bro. Appreciate it. Thanks for tuning in and watching the entire video. I guess you thought it was captivating. But we have a little bit of time for some comments. Where's Hurts? Hurts is nowhere close to a top 15 player in this game. I'm sorry. I don't see it at all. I mean, as a drop back passer, you're concerned every time he drops back. He does take care of the ball and he does win a lot, but he's in a phenomenal situation, right? I don't know another team that's been able to rely on a run game and a defense this year quite like the Eagles, or maybe ever. I mean, like, this has been one of the easiest situations I've ever seen a quarterback be put into. And just because you play the quarterback position, this is a positionless list. This is not value-based. If it was value-based, obviously Hurts would probably be on the list because he's a quarterback. But yeah. You can take out Kelsey and put Bond. That's fair. That's your opinion. But I'll just say this. Who are you fearing more? Who are you thinking about more in the Super Bowl? Travis Kelsey or Zach Bond? No mention of any of the Eagles secondary. Great secondary. I don't think any of them rightfully deserve to be on this list. You know, 2 of them are rookies. Good players. I don't think they're considered top 10 at their position. You look at this list, man. Like, Creed Humphrey's the best center in the league, arguably. Trent McDuffie's number 2 corner. Lane Johnson, number 2 right tackle. Jalen Carter, number 2 or 3 defensive tackle. A.J. Brown, number 4 or 5 receiver. Jordan Mailata, number 2 left tackle in the league. Chris Jones, best D lineman. Patrick Mahomes, arguably the best quarterback. Saquon Barkley, the best running back. So, like, it's hard to say that they should be on this list. You know what I'm saying? It really is. So, that's it. All right, guys. Thank you so much for watching. It's Mitch. You can join me tomorrow. I will be back, haters. I will be back. 7 p.m. Eastern time. I'll be back to talk a little NFL draft. So if you're interested in the NFL draft, tune in tomorrow at 7 p.m. Eastern time. This is NFL Daily on Bleacher Report. I'm Mitch. Thank you so much for watching. Follow. Peace.